We're live.
Fantastic. Welcome, everyone. My name is Tracy Breckenridge. I am the Communications Director with the Office of Children's Affairs for the City and County of Denver. And we are here at a press conference to recognize and honor and support National Youth Violence Prevention Week. So before we get started, and we will get started right away, I just want to also welcome any of our media guests and to remind you that you can place your questions in the Q&A feature at any time during this session. And then at the end, we will come back and our panelists will answer your questions and address anything that you have there. Other than that, I think we'll be ready to go. One more last note. I am going to, at the end of this, I will type in all of the panelists' names so that our media guests have the correct spellings in their position so that you have that. I will also put in links to our Youth Violence Prevention webpage and our Office of Children's Affairs webpage so that you have that. And the reason we're doing that at the end, and I'm just being transparent here, is because I discovered that if I do it early and someone comes in a little later, they won't get it. So we will hold it at the end so everyone will have access to that information. That work? Good. Okay, I'm gonna get started here and I'm gonna turn it over to Kristen Bronson, our city attorney. Take it, Kristen.
Thank you, Tracy, and good afternoon, everyone. My name is Kristen Bronson. I'm the Denver City Attorney, and I'm just thrilled to be here to celebrate the kickoff of National Youth Violence Prevention Week with you. This is a chance for us to showcase our amazing youth leaders who are doing so much to make a difference in their neighborhoods, but it's also a chance to reflect on the impact of violence, and especially gun violence, and the impact it's having on our youth. Youth violence is a public health crisis that continues to inflict a devastating toll on our city. Denver has partnered with community and with youth over the past year and a half to develop a comprehensive plan for violence prevention and to lift up our youth out of the conditions that have led to youth violence. And we have done this through the leadership of Mayor Michael Hancock, as well as our youth leaders. And we're here to celebrate that today and to share some of that information with you. Tracy mentioned the Youth Violence Prevention website, and that link will be provided to you. But I would encourage you to go on to that link and to pull up our comprehensive plan. About a year and a half ago, Mayor Hancock asked me to lead a youth violence prevention action table to join with community and city agencies, other governments in our region, and our youth to develop a public health approach to youth violence prevention and to develop a comprehensive plan around the issue. We've heard a lot in the news lately of unfortunate, tragic events around mass shootings, but shootings and death occur every day in our communities, and they are no less important and no less vital that we focus on that type of violence and that we develop intentional strategies to try to prevent that kind of violence. Our strategies are keys to success for those strategies are threefold. They are community-led, they are city supported, and they are youth informed. And we have about 23 of them that are listed in our comprehensive report with a great deal of detail, and be happy to answer questions about those. One of those vital strategies was the creation of a youth violence prevention coordinator position. And I am thrilled to say that Jonathan McMillan, so wonderful community activist, someone who has dedicated his career to youth violence and lifting up our youth, has joined the city as that coordinator. We have the right leaders in Denver. We have prioritized this issue, and we have a plan. And so, again, I want to kick it over to Mayor Hancock to really officially begin our Youth Violence Prevention Week. But Denver, the news is good. We are prepared, we are implementing our plan, and we are excited to spend this week looking for opportunities to tell you more about our plans around youth violence prevention and to highlight the wonderful work of our youth in partnering with us in this effort. Mayor Hancock.
Thank you, Kristen. Your leadership has been tremendous. So today, we're joining others from across the country to recognize National Youth Violence Prevention Week. recognizing our young people who are making a positive impact on being the difference in something we all must commit to, lifting them up and working side by side with them in the fight to make our community safer, not only this week, but every week. Youth violence is real, but most importantly, it's preventable, and it requires every one of us to take a stand against violence. You know, over the past year, we have faced two public health crises at once. While we've been faced with challenges of a global pandemic, we were also grappling with increasing levels of youth violence in our country and right here in Denver. As the pandemic began, I promised that if we worked together and made short-term sacrifices, we would once again rise up. And though we're not out of the woods yet, the outlook is improving and our collective efforts are paying off. What we have seen is that the economic, social, and psychological stressors caused by COVID-19 have also intensified concerns around youth and community violence. The good news is that by partnering with our communities and our youth, Denver is taking on this challenge and standing up against violence. We've been working for the past year and a half to strengthen our efforts around youth violence and deepen our investments in evidence-based strategies. Under the leadership of Kristen Bronson, our city attorney, we created a cross-agency citywide public health approach to this issue. We brought on Youth Violence Prevention Coordinator Jonathan McMillan, who's been mentioned, who is a lifetime advocate and community leader in this work. And he is here to ensure that strategies outlined in our comprehensive plan are moving us forward and that we are making progress. We've committed over $500,000 in additional funding in the 2021 budget to support both youth violence prevention and suicide prevention. And those dollars are on top of the $78.1 million we already dedicated to youth programs. Collectively, we can stop violence and build healthier communities. But most importantly, we can, we should, and we will continue to invest in the future of our young people. They deserve and need our attention and action during this moment. Safety in a city like Denver starts with all of us. So I want to thank you for joining us today. And I hope you will join us for the events we have planned for Youth Violence Prevention Week. We have some great work happening in Denver, and it's being led by some very talented young people. You're going to be one of them today, Mr. Dane Washington Jr. And I'll let our violence prevention coordinator, Jonathan McMillan, take it from here. But I want to thank everyone for joining us, for listening, and for agreeing to be with us as we go to defeat youth violence in our city. Jonathan?
Hey, thank you, Mayor Hancock. It's a pleasure to be here with you. As many of you know, as it's been mentioned, I've spent all of my adult life, it seems, in working towards this role. And so it's an honor to be able to share this stage with you right now to talk about some things that are already happening. One of my first tasks was to really uphold and launch this National Youth Violence Prevention Week in Denver at a level which I don't believe has happened before. So I'm really excited to talk about some of those things. You know, nationally, the purpose of YVP Week is to educate and raise awareness on ways to reduce and prevent youth violence. And locally, Denver is taking this week as an opportunity to recognize the role that we all, each and all, play in creating safer, healthier neighborhoods and communities for all of Denver's youth. As pointed out by our Youth Advisory Council, youth violence is more than just gun violence. It's more than just community violence. It's also self-harm, including suicide, alcohol, tobacco, and substance misuse, and relationship violence. And so keeping this comprehensive view in mind, the Youth Violence Prevention Action Table, to which both you and Kristen noted earlier, was very intentional about creating comprehensive solutions. As it's been mentioned before, the plan was a result of multiple agencies, multiple dignitaries that all sat at the Youth Violence Prevention Action Table, but also included the school system, also included our state and federal partners, also included our juvenile justice partners, and more importantly, probably most importantly, it included youth members as our Youth Violence Prevention Action Table, which Dane Jr. here is a co-chair of. And we were really able to get insight, input, and perspective from the youth themselves, who are the subject matter experts about what causes the violence that they're dealing with. It impacts them, and also what possible solutions could be. and now that I've been hired on and I've jumped into the work feet first. I'm not sure which is appropriate, but we've already started on a bunch of initiatives, which I will just highlight a few of them. We've expanded the youth violence prevention micro grant program that was introduced last year. The application actually opened up on Friday, and we're anticipating getting a lot of monies back into the community-based organizations that are the credible messengers, that are the trusted messengers, that knows the community the best, to be able to expand on the programming that they already do, but then maybe get creative and find new programming that's going to address the risk and protective factors that the Center for Disease Control has highlighted as driving youth violence or preventing youth violence. We've expanded safe zone programming. Last year, the Safe Zone program was a huge thing. We've actually reshifted to be more asset-based and say we're doing youth zone pop-up events this year. We expanded the funding that's available for those events, and the application closed just last week, and we have close to 24 community organizations that have applied for these funds. So I'm really excited to see what's going to happen over the summer. We've started on the regional compact with our sister city, Aurora. Aurora has taken the initiative with Denver to really look at youth violence as a regional issue and not something separate from what Denver's doing and what Aurora's doing. My hope is that we're going to expand that compact in the years to come to include cities like Lakewood and Commerce City, so we could work collaboratively towards youth violence prevention. And then one other thing I want to highlight is this came out of the Youth Advisory Council, and many of our community members were saying we need a location for our young people to be young people and get the support that they need from community, from city, from subject matter experts. And so with some creative partnership with Dito, we found some funding to purchase the old PALS building, which is now being converted and repurposed into a youth empowerment center. There's already a small group of community members, which include, or actually are led by youth members who are saying what the programming is that they want in that building. Everything from maker spaces to entrepreneurship, development and training to mental health supports. So we're really digging deep and going long and wide with this effort, and I'm excited to be at the wheel and leading some of this work. But again, I would be remiss if I took any or all the credit, because it really falls on the Youth Advisory Council, which we convened. And the best part of my week, I tell people all the time, the best part of my week is getting to spend some time with young Dane here and some of his colleagues. And I just want to pass the mic to him to talk about why this is important from a youth lens.
Thank you, Jonathan. Thank you, Mayor Hancock, as well, and everyone else putting this together. My name is Dane Washington Jr. I am co-chair of the Youth Advisory Council of Denver. I'm also the youth engagement coordinator of a youth violence prevention media campaign by the name of The Power of One. And the youth violence prevention work is very important for the community, but the biggest part of our involvement is getting youth involved, and me being an advocate for youth voice is exactly why I'm here. And just understanding the value of youth voice and all the decisions that are being made throughout the city and all these other important things that we're working on. But the youth voice is very important because we are the generation for change. Throughout this past year that we've seen, a lot of the initiatives that are being produced are youth-led, and it's very important because youth are creating new ideas, and we're not only learning from the adults that we're working with, but we're also helping them learn new ways that we can move forward, and teaching them new things as well. So it's very good for the youth to learn, but it's also good for the adults and the people that we're working with to learn from us, to see what the insight of the youth is, because we're the ones who are in the community, seeing what the violence looks like, seeing what is causing the violence, and figuring out ways that we can prevent the violence. So that's our biggest goal and our biggest reason for really doing a lot of the work that we do. So it's really it's a blessing to be able to be the lead and be able to help be the front runners for what the future looks like and be able to be that generational change for the future. Because like I said, the youth is the future of our country, but also everywhere in the world. So we have to be able to lean on the youth to see what ideas they bring forward, to see what the future looks like in the end. And like Mayor Hancock said, safety starts with us. And yeah, so I'm gonna go ahead and pass the mic back to Jonathan.
I love it. Now you all see why I love working with this young man and all of the young people that who he's brought to the table. And really the best way I can wrap that up is not only is the city and county of Denver really being intentional about youth violence prevention and Youth Violence Prevention Week, the community is as well. And I've been working with a lot of young people this week to hear what they're planning. And I just want to highlight some of the events and activities happening this week. Besides this press conference, later on today, this evening at Denver City Council and Aurora City Council, there are proclamations being read that are commemorating National Youth Violence Prevention Week in both of these cities. I think making that intentional announcement that this is where the city's priorities are. Wednesday, I can't say it enough, our youth have taken the reins and really pushed forward. The Mayor's Youth Commission, in partnership with the Power of One and other youth groups throughout the city, have come together to organize a virtual forum that's happening Wednesday evening, with the intention of bringing as many of Denver's youth groups together in that virtual setting to share ideas, to share projects, to share resources, to fellowship and learn how in the future they can support one another's efforts and then collaborate and really lead the work moving forward without a whole lot of adult oversight or interruptions, if I'm going to be honest with you. Friday at the community level, the Mending Roots Forest Project is hosting a telethon, which is going to be highlighting stories from young people who have been directly impacted by violence, by survivors and family members who have been impacted by violence, and also those who are doing the work, both at the community level, whether it's individuals or community-based organizations. There's going to be live entertainment from a lot of our local youth artists and adult artists. It's going to be an incredible opportunity to hear the story of what's happening in Denver from a comprehensive level. And then Saturday, we are having a soft launch, and I say soft launch, of the Youth Empowerment Center, which is going to be an opportunity for the youth group I talked about earlier over in the Southwest area to really have an opportunity to share their vision for that center with some of the elected officials who are going to be responsible in rallying resources to make that a reality. Almost every night this week, there's something happening on the community side. I think most of those events are going to be listed on the webpage. Thank you, Tracy, for highlighting the link to the webpage in the chat here. And that's it. Like, I'm not going to waste much more time because I got a lot to coordinate. I'm just really excited, y'all. And thank you for the opportunity to make this vision a reality.
You know someone was going to do it, the mute button. Welcome. So thank you guys so much. I see one question in our question and answer queue that I'm going to ask. And Jonathan, you will follow your lead. You tell us who would be best to answer that question. But here is the question. When do you expect the Youth Empowerment Center to open?
You know, I will attempt to answer that question to the best of my knowledge. It's the work in progress. And as you know, the city, one of the strengths of the city is a lot of people can take on specific tasks. And so the unfortunate reality is we would love to open it up to everybody on Saturday. However, because the youth violence prevention plan in the city as a whole has really committed to being as diverse, equitable, and inclusive as possible. There's some repurposing and renovations that need to happen at the building to make sure that it's ADA qualified and accessible to people who have challenges, whether they're physical or whatever other type of challenges people are facing. We want to make sure that the proper programming is to fidelity of what the young people in the community want. In saying that, we need to make sure we're partnering with the right people. We need to make sure that the community members that come in have what they need in order to be successful. The last thing we want to do is to just give somebody an office space but none of the resources, and then not be able to meet the actual needs and the authentic needs of the community. So I'm going, Kristen might shake her head at this. I'm going to say, hopefully within the next 90 to 120 days, we will be able to open the doors at least partially. But that I reserve the right to revisit that answer as appropriate.
Fair deal. Thank you, Jonathan. We have another question. This one is related to transportation. And the question is, will you be providing transportation for the teens to and from the Empowerment Center?
The short answer is we will be partnering with our transit partners within the city. One of the reasons why the Powell's building was selected and was the ideal spot for the first go round was because it is on transit lines. It's right on the bus lines. It's accessible. Again, one of the great initiatives that's come out of the Office of Children's Affairs and in support of with Mayor Hancock is the it used to be called on my way pass. I forget what the exact wording is. I might be showing my age. It used to be the on my own pass back when I was a kid. But there is access to reduced fare or free bus transit that's already in effect with the Office of Children's Affairs. And we plan on including that into the rollout of the Youth Empowerment Center and our YVP initiatives moving forward.
Thank you, Jonathan. So right now, I don't see any more questions in the question and answer feature, but if someone is placing questions in the chat, please place them in the Q&A and we can certainly address those. But right now, I don't see any more. Okay, we're good. Anything anybody wants to add before we close up?
I would just like to mention, Tracy, that quite some time ago, we signed a regional compact with the city of Aurora to work collaboratively on youth violence prevention efforts. And you will also be hearing from Aurora about plans they have for Youth Violence Prevention Week. We are coordinating and really trying to work together as neighboring communities to tackle this very difficult problem because obviously youth violence prevention knows no borders. But folks that have heard about the compact and may be aware of it, we have been meeting regularly and the communities are collaborating on youth violence prevention efforts, including our work around this week.
Fantastic. Thank you for sharing that, Kristen. I do have another question that dropped in the box, and it's related to the amount of teens that have lost their lives in 2020. So the question is, countless teens have lost their lives to violence in 2020. Does anything seem to be working, or are we looking at other cities for advice? And Kristen, you might have touched on that a little bit, that cities are working together, but who would like to address that?
Go ahead, Jonathan, and I can chime in.
Sure, I'll jump in and say, one of the reasons that I'm really, really excited about the plan that was developed over the last year and a half is that we had the advice and technical assistance from Cities United, which is a nonprofit located in Louisville, Kentucky. Their overall mission is to reduce the number of homicides of particularly Black men, but youth in general, by 50% by the year 2025. I was fortunate enough, probably about 3 years ago, to go through a week-long training at their facility in Louisville, and brought back a wealth of knowledge that really helped me contribute to the development of the plan. But then their executive director and their community liaison also participated very closely in every step of the process of developing the plan that Denver design is moving forward with. Additionally, the pop-up zones, which we saw last year as the safe zones, there was Joey Pace, Pat Hedrick, and myself met on a pretty regular basis with the contact from Sacramento, California, where those pop-up events are a routine part of their youth violence prevention strategies, and they have been welcome in giving us their best strategies and best practices in the design and execution of those pop-up events, which is one of the reasons why we were able to develop or commit so much funding towards them this year, because we're pretty certain that the impact, the positive impact that they had last year will be able to be scaled even more so last year. And again, I would be remiss if I didn't say, last year, right after the quarantine and stay-at-home orders were relaxed or lifted somewhat, we saw a spike in violence, which was kind of anticipated. And it was a community member who reached out to me, and kind of the thread of me reaching out to OCA, the response of being able to fund a handful of those pop-up events had an immediate positive benefit. We saw an immediate reduction in the number of violent acts that were happening after those pop-up events were starting to be held throughout the community, all the way from far northeast to southwest Denver. And again, we're just looking to scale the impact and the positive contributions that those events in the community have towards the overall youth violence.
I would just add that we are looking at evidence-based strategies from across the country. As Jonathan noted, the pop-up events are a really good example of that. The more expansive program that has been rolled out in Sacramento has shown tremendous results. They've seen a dramatic decrease in youth violence and incidents of youth violence in that city. Another example is our Empowerment Center. We modeled it after the
Yes.
Challenge Center in Knoxville, Tennessee. So we absolutely leaned on our national partners and the good information we could gather from across the country as to what was working. And frankly, we got the input of our youth leaders like Dane as to what they felt was working and had worked, and what they saw and prioritized, including mental and behavioral health supports for young people. That's something else that our youth have really prioritized as something that makes a big difference. I don't know if Mayor, you wanted to add anything to that.
Yeah, I think the whole point, and I appreciate the question, because it's important to note that what we know is that not one silver idea will solve or be the solution to youth violence. By taking a public health approach to it, it allows us to broaden our strategies to be more comprehensive, to include other things other than a police response to violence prevention, youth violence prevention, which has been kind of the more traditional way of responding. This is more comprehensive, and I think those are compilation, as Kristen and John point out, compilation of some of the best practices around the country. This is a much more, I think this approach has a much more possibility, a much greater possibility of being efficacious in terms of preventing youth violence.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mayor. Mayor, while we have you, there's a question specifically for you that's asking about reducing the deaths amongst teens. And here's the question for you. Mayor Michael Hancock, do you have a goal set, like Kentucky, to reduce the deaths among teens? This is Addie with Denver 7. Thank you for the question.
Yeah, no, I thank you for the question. I have not established a goal, because I think any death among teens that is preventable is too many deaths. And so I have not intentionally gone out and said we're going to reduce by 20, 30% or 100%. The goal is 100%, because what we're dealing with today really points us to a real critical challenge and crises with regards to our youth, the health of our young people, the socioeconomic condition of our young people and their families, really the lack of supports within a community itself. And so we got to address all of these elements. And let's focus on that. If we do that effectively, then we're going to see a dramatic decrease in the deaths of young people in our community.
Fantastic. We have a few questions from Facebook, and I don't know if we have complete time to answer everyone's questions, but please understand that we will certainly come back through Facebook and be sure that we address everything that everyone asked, but we'll take a few. One of them is, are we partnering with people to make sure innocent Black and brown children are not being targeted by police in their communities, such as Elijah McClain? I don't know who wants to take that one.
I'd be happy to take that one, Tracy. And I think that's a wonderful question. I'll begin with the very short answer is yes, we are making very intentional partnerships. One of the strategies in the comprehensive plan is to have intentional, and I would say sometimes challenging conversations with our leadership in our public safety, including Chief Pazin, Sheriff Diggins, and Director Murphy Robinson. We've already had two in a series of what we believe will be an ongoing series of conversations with leadership in Denver, and I imagine they will expand over to Aurora as we expand in the regional compact, where our Youth Advisory Council and other youth groups, including youth from Denver Public Schools, youth from the libraries, and other groups, have sat down and had very intentional conversations with leaders from public safety to ask them about policy, to ask them about specific incidents, to ask them what are they doing. The last conversation was a really robust conversation about what does mental health support look like, both external and internally, and reimagining public safety. Before I go too far on a tangent, I want to say, as part of the Youth Advisory Council's work to contributing to the plan, they spent probably about 2 months reviewing and getting familiar with public policy as it related to criminal justice reform in the criminal legal system. So we have young people who are going to hold leadership to the task and hold their feet to the fire to make sure that they are being authentic in conversations about change and organizational change and policy change. So absolutely.
Let me just add one thing to it, and I appreciate Jonathan's answer, because one of the things that we've been really intentional about is trying to create interactions and contact between law enforcement and young people outside of a law enforcement role. And not only so we know we have the co-responder and the STARS program out there where, something that doesn't require police response is gone, we can now send clinicians to the call. But this is about actually having the opportunity for young people to sit with officers, interact with them, have a conversation with them. And as much as it's for the young people, it's also for the officers who need to bridge that gap of trust and understanding and empathy, quite frankly, on the streets. And we got to do more of that. The monitor, our city monitor actually implemented a very effective model like that. And that's the kind of stuff that we're going to continue to fund and try to duplicate throughout the city.
Fantastic. Thank you, Mayor. We're going to take one more question. Is that okay with the panel?
Tracy,
yes.
If you don't mind, I feel I would like Dane to add to that if he feels comfortable.
Absolutely, Dane, go for it.
I can add a little bit. Jonathan really hit the nail on the head for the most part, but the biggest thing is collaboration amongst youth and those leaders within the community, because we have to, like I mentioned before, we have to share ideas. But I think the biggest thing, and Mayor Michael Hancock also kind of touched on it a little bit, but we have to figure out ways that we can build trust amongst the community. And I think that's the first step, is just really sitting in a room where everyone is just very open and able to have a conversation that may or may not be a little sensitive, but it's good for us to be able to have opportunities like that to get answers and figure out what the future looks like and see what ways we can support and what things the community is doing to support us as well. So it's a very big part in all of the work that we're doing.
Fantastic. Thank you, Dane. Last question is, how is the coalition supporting our Hispanic neighbors and kids involved in gangs? Great question. Who would like to take that one?
I will be more than happy to. And again, it's a great question. As I mentioned before, one of the realities that came into play when Mayor Hancock asked Kristen to convene this action table was the disparity of our Black and brown young people being impacted by violence, by death, disproportionately by law enforcement, and making sure as we take this public health approach, understanding that systemic and institutionalized racism underlines a lot of what we see in reality. It just does. And if we weren't honest about addressing that and recognizing that, and then working to not only address, but to redress some of the systemic and institutionalized racism that comes into play, whether it's through violence in our communities or our criminal justice system, or the people not having economic upward mobility and being empowered to change their circumstances, realizing that a lot of these things result in real life violence. We weren't really doing anything that hasn't been done before. That being said, I would say at least half, or if not more, of the comprehensive plan is really leaning into our stakeholders who are embedded into the communities and have relationships with the youth who are most at risk of being involved or impacted by violence. And so when we talk about our Hispanic and Latinx communities, there are intentional conversations and partnerships and relationships being built with the stakeholders who know that community the best. There's the Southwest Vita as a youth group that I'm working very closely with during this White Youth Violence Prevention Week. Lifeline and Urban Impact are some stakeholders over there who are on the ground doing violence interruption, meeting with the victims, the families of victims, and meeting with the perpetrators or close people with the perpetrators to try to interrupt that cycle of violence that happens when a violent act happens. Working with the Southwest Coalition, working with our partners in far Northeast Denver, the Montbello Organizing Committee, the Struggle of Love. Again, these are organizations who have embedded and really worked hands-on, boots on the ground, working to develop relationships with the young people who are most impacted and most involved in the violence. Now, I'd be remiss to say, the city as a whole has been very proactive about addressing and trying to redress the impact that gang violence has on our communities with the GRID initiative, the Gang Reduction Initiative of Denver. And this initiative, the Youth Violence Prevention Initiative I'm coordinating, is not intended to replace GRID, but to augment the work that's already happening there and to rally resources from the community side, but also to fundraise from, say, the federal government, the CDC, and find initiatives to find what's working and make it work better, right? So there's no option off the table unless it doesn't work. And none of this is exclusive to any particular subset of people, culture, race, creed, any of that. But it is being very intentional of looking at what cultures, what communities, what races are disproportionately impacted by violence, and saying we cannot have that anymore as an operating system, which is the city of Denver.
Fantastic. Jonathan, thank you so much. This is going to kind of close us up for this press conference. It is National Youth Violence Prevention Week. Denver is celebrating it. Other states, the world is celebrating it. The nation is celebrating it. So as I said at the beginning, our website is in the chat to our Youth Violence Prevention page. So you can stay on top of what's going on this week and participate. This takes all of us. The website for the Office of Children's Affairs is also available, and my contact information is there as well. So we appreciate everybody joining us today. Panelists, thank you so much. Everyone have a great day.